Hi, I'm Dave Murphy with Generac Mobile. Today we're going to talk about some light towers and generators, general use and safety. We'll take a look first at the light towers. When your customer comes in to rent a light tower, you need to make sure they're aware of the safety features, safe operation, and how to deploy the unit. So whether you're hooking or unhooking from a truck, you guys know to make sure that the hitch is locked in place, safety chains, and brake lights are hooked up. On the front tongue, you have a stabilizing jack here, and if we move around to the back, we have one on each side. In order to deploy the unit, that's the first thing you want to do, because you want to make sure that the light tower is not going to roll. Pull the pin, pull the jack out, and then you have a safety pin here. Rotate it around, put the safety pin back in so that the jack is stabilized. Crank it down. And you want to crank it up until you feel tension to where it's stabilizing the light tower. And then you move to the other side and repeat the process. Once you have both outriggers deployed on the back end, next you can come up to the mast. So this is the mast that holds the light fixtures. We have easy adjustment. It's toolless, so you can rotate back and forth, up and down with the fixture itself. You need to do this from the ground, obviously. Once you get it up in the air, there's no adjusting it. So make sure you adjust your lights on the ground. The mast does have a lock for the rotation. Unscrew that. You can rotate the mast back and forth to aim it where you need to. Once you have it where you want it, lock it back in place. And then Generac has on their units a two-handle crank. It's very ergonomic. It's more safe than a single hand crank. Less fatigue, less injuries. We also have a cover over the cable so that there's no chance of getting anything caught in it or getting pinched, but you still need to be safe. If you have long hair, make sure it's back in a ponytail. Keep your fingers away from the gear itself. Keep your hands on the crank. So we're ready to run it up. So, depending on which light tower model you have in your fleet, they're either going to be a 23 or a 30-foot mast. The lay-down style or horizontal are longer usually. The vertical masts are going to be the 23-footers. So, we've got our mast up, we've got our outriggers out, everything's stable. From a wind rating, these are rated at 65 miles per hour. If we come around to the back, on the outside of the enclosure, you've got step-by-step instructions for deploying this. So you can kind of go over it with your customer, but it's also going to be there when they get to the field. If they don't remember something you said, they can reference this. We do have a lockable enclosure. You can slide that over, put a padlock on here to lock the controller from being accessed. Flip this up. This is a base model. Many light towers in your fleet are going to have a key switch operation. So you have glow plug warming, start mode, and run mode with these. Once they get going, you've got a main circuit breaker. Flip on the main circuit breaker. Then you have your a single light switch on this model. And that's going to turn on all four lights. Some models will have 4 switches, one for each light. This unit does not have any convenience outlets, so you do not have any export power on this model. So you need to make sure if the customer does need power, you're renting them a unit that has convenience outlets on it. Okay, this model has a digital controller. We talked about the analog key start. This one is going to be a simple push button. It's got on-off, dusk to dawn. You've got dusk to dawn, dusk plus 4 hours, dusk plus 8 hours. Individual light control on this one. Obviously main circuit breaker for protection. And then you've got your controller switch, which turns on the digital controller. That's the big difference between this one and the analog. It needs power to run. This unit also has export power. So it's got a single 20 amp duplex receptacle. So that's going to be the type of plug you have in your home, you know, the straight blade. It can only take 20 amps of load. Customer tries to run something that's 30 amps, it's not going to work. It's going to trip the circuit breaker, take the light tower offline. So that's the control panel. From a maintenance standpoint, customer's going to have this for a long-term rent, and they're going to do their own maintenance, or if you need to go out and check fluids or something like that. Everything's right here in front. It's accessible. These are compact light towers. Everything's in here. You've got your engine, alternator on this end. Depending on the size of the units, manufacturers rate them differently. You're going to see anywhere from 1.4 kilowatts up to 8 kilowatts on the compact units. So from a maintenance standpoint, we've got our air filter right here on top, oil filter, fuel filter. You've got your battery, your coolant reservoir for the radiator. Your radiator cap's up top here. Obviously, anytime one of these has been running, everything's going to be hot, just like your car. You don't want to go take the radiator cap off when the engine's hot. So be very careful. You've got your dipstick in here for checking the oil. And that's pretty much it from a maintenance standpoint. All right, now we're going to talk a little bit about who rents these, where they're used, and what types of accessories are available. So light towers are going to be used through all phases of construction. From early on when they're doing site work, you know, they might be dewatering or doing the excavation of a site. They need lights out there. These guys are working early in the morning, late in the evening. You know, during a light tower season, they're getting a lot of use. Through, you know, the framing, the skeletal portion of construction, all the way up through finishing. You've got to have lighting for safety around the job site. It's very important. Obviously, all the workers have to park somewhere. You need to have the parking lot lit up. You guys see these all the time around the holidays, Halloween. The stores have them out in front of the, you know, of the Halloween store. Christmas tree yards, events, schools, churches, municipalities, utility companies. They all have a fleet of light towers. They're sending their guys out to make repairs all hours of the day and night. So they need to have a reliable source of lighting so they have a safe job site. So yeah, all phases of construction use light towers. Let's talk a little bit about accessories and options. We talked about the two-handle crank. You can get an electric winch where you just push a button on the controller and it automatically runs it up for you. Some customers want that. They don't want their guys out there cranking them up. We've got some other things like diffused lighting covers. We'll show some pictures of those, but on this new style LED, they just pop in, and that way you have a dual use light tower. You've got a diffused tower and a standard tower. We've got cold weather options, so you can get block heaters. Some models offer containment. Oil and gas customers require that on their job sites, some petrochem facilities. Some other contractors are going to ask you for a skid containment. That's going to contain all the fluids if there is a catastrophic failure and a leak. While metal halide lights were the standard for years, LEDs have improved to the point where their lumen output and the punch and spread of the light is equaling that of metal halide. There are many benefits to going with LED now. You've got less power requirement, so you've got more output power from your light tower. They last longer, more durable. These have a 5-year warranty, a 10,000 hour lifespan on them, whereas with metal halide, you get, you're susceptible to bulbs breaking. They're very susceptible to vibration. They burn out quicker. You get less dimming over the life of the LED as opposed to the metal halide. With the LED lights, you're also now getting a better color rendering. These are about a 5,000 Kelvin on the CR index, and what that's going to do is it's going to represent true colors on a job site. Think about electricians trying to wire up some equipment. If there's demolition going on a site where they're going to use explosives, obviously you want the contractor to be able to look at the red and blue wires and tell that they are truly red and blue and not brown and purple. So that's the main feature of the 5,000 Kelvin on the CR index.